to be liars when they say, La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasul. The permission which was not given to Hazrat sallallahu alayhi wa sallam himself, Lasta alayhim bi musafir, innama anta muzakkir lasta alayhim bi musafir. That position has been acquired as if forcefully from God by these mullahs. That permission which Huzur Akram sallallahu alayhi wa sallam did not give to his own companions. That position also has been misappropriated by these mullahs. Under conditions, the condition which I am referring to, under conditions which were extreme. If a permission was to be given, if an exception was to be made, that was the occasion when somebody could really justifiably doubt the statement of somebody who was, after all, trying to save his life. It was so obvious and evident. So he did not permit in that extreme condition, extreme necessity. Yet these mullahs have taken this into their own hands. And so exactly the converse is true with them. But Islam stood for, if you invert it, that becomes Islam for them. Every situation has been inverted in the name of religion, yet against the clear-cut verdicts of the Holy Quran and the tradition of Huzur Akram sallallahu alaihi wasallam and his own most wonderful example. Then they quote Hazrat Abu Bakr because they have nothing to quote from Hazrat Rasul Kareem sallallahu alaihi wasallam. This is the most wonderful point which should not be missed by Ahmadis. Whenever they speak of the subject of coercion in religion of some sort, they immediately start quoting Abu Bakr Siddiq. It is a Siddiq is required for today to punish the Ahmadis. Why not Muhammad Mustafa sallallahu alaihi wasallam himself? Because they can't find a semblance of coercion all through his life. And without having recourse to inversion of the facts, they can't prove any point, even in the case of Hazrat Abu Bakr Siddiq radhiyallahu ta'ala. They say, look here, he punished the murtaddeen, the renegades, the apostates. He punished them, he permitted, waged a war against them until they became Muslims again. All right, we take them for their statement, whatever it is. But the point which is to be seen through, which most people miss, and I am surprised why they miss it, is that the whole incident, the whole chapter to which they are referring, has to be completely inverted. The orders of Hazrat Abu Bakr Siddiq was, radhiyallahu ta'ala anhu, wage war against those who have denied zakat. But if you find that such people, they say kalima la ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah, you have nothing to do with them then, nothing against them. If their qibla is in the direction of the qibla of Muslims, then you have no authority over them, no permission from me to move against them. And if they believe in zakat, all these fundamentals, then hands off them. Here it is exactly the opposite. They say as long as the Ahmadis say La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah, they will be murdered. As long as their qiblas are in the direction of Muslim qiblas and they don't change the shape of their mosque, they will be murdered. As long as they believe in zakat and insist on paying zakat, they will be murdered. Every point has been inverted completely, totally. Hazrat Abu Bakr said, as long as they do not say kalima, you can have some authority over them, some power. But I am not discussing the whole incident as such. If you study the history in its proper perspective, you will come to realize that even there, whatever Hazrat Abu Bakr Siddiq radhiyallahu ta'ala anhu said, there was no coercion in religion. A state had been established, state of Islam, and they had refused to pay the tax. So that was a coercion of state, and no state can survive without coercion. they are exactly the opposite to each other. State and religion don't go together hand in hand, because the very definition of one is contradictory and opposed to the definition of the other. The definition of religion according to Islam is La ikraha fid din. The definition of a state, whichever book you pick up for that and study, the definition of state would be a state cannot exist without coercion. Coercion is an integral part of any state. So you see, they are diametrically opposed things, religion and state. In this sense, their definitions are diametrically opposed. So a coercion had to be taken recourse to at the time of Hazrat Abu Bakr Siddiq radhiyallahu ta'ala anhu, because a step apart from religion of Islam, a state had also been born in Arabia. And it was a well-established state by the time of Hazur Akram sallallahu alayhi wa sallam's departure. And regular governors were appointed to run the affairs of the state. And they were not the spiritual representatives. Mind you, this is the main difference. They were not like Murabbiyan as we appoint nowadays. They were regular governors of the state. So a rebellion had taken place, not one rebellion, but so many rebellions spread out in different parts of Arabia. And Hazrat Abu Bakr Siddiq decided to quell those rebellions. Now, where is the authority to interfere with religion or any occasion to draw any inference about coercion in religion? Religion and state, as long as they are properly defined, can never move hand in hand in the sense that one can be taken for the other. As I have already mentioned, they stand diametrically opposed to each other in their fundamental definitions. So I have not treated your second question like I treated your first question, right? Yes. Well, you better ask everybody. Dr. Mujib?
We know, sir, idol worship is one of the greatest sins. Still, people, of course, believe in this as an article of faith. And history tells us that the Holy Prophet ﷺ dismantled those idols which were kept in Kaaba.
Yet he did not permit other idols to be broken. I understand your question, because this question has been already asked by Mr. Ibrahim Lamholt and already answered by me. And I understand you were also here, or were you not? But it is very seldom that you miss a session like this. Huh? That was an odd day out in your life. Huh? Yes, please. The fact is that, as I explained, the Holy Quran makes a statement, Innal masajida lillahi fala tad'u ma'allahi ahada. The mosques are built for the purpose of Allah worship, not for idol worship. So don't worship anyone besides Allah in the mosques. So if a mosque is built and idols are introduced later on, it is not a war against the mosque, it's a defense of the mosque itself. Now this is applicable to any situation. So La ikraha fid din requires that through force, through coercion, a mosque which was built for a certain purpose has been distorted and now is being used for a completely opposite purpose. So the right of that mosque must be restored, otherwise there will be coercion in religion. So that is why that mosque was right was restored. But that was not all. That mosque happened to be the very first mosque ever built in the world for the worship of God. The most important in this regard. So Hazur Akram sallallahu alayhi wa sallam